The state of Alabama has a champion for essentially getting rid of this whole type of thing.
That's right. Alabama's been one of the worst states until recently, but right now there's a bill before the legislature that would, as I say in my update, it would actually put Alabama probably at the top of the list. The Institute for Justice ranks all the states every few years in terms of how well or badly they're doing when it comes to asset forfeiture. North Carolina has always been at the top of the list. But I think if Alabama passes this bill, they're going to supersede us and go right to the head of the class.
Why is that?
For a couple of reasons. One reason is that unlike North Carolina, where there are a few exceptions, there are some circumstances, for instance, driving while under the influence under certain circumstances, you can lose your vehicle through civil asset forfeiture. So there are some exceptions in North Carolina, but the Alabama legislation would eliminate all exceptions. There would simply be no more civil asset forfeiture under Alabama law. That's interesting, but I don't think that's the main reason why it's going to send them to the top of the class, and it's not the main reason why we ought to be interested in this legislation. What Alabama also does is it prevents what we call anti-circumvention. In many states, including in North Carolina, local law enforcement agencies and state law enforcement agencies can use federal law to circumvent state protections against civil asset forfeiture. They do that by either something called an adoptions program, which it's simply a pure circumvention policy that allows them to take property, process it through the federal courts under federal law, and then get back 80% of the assets for their own use.
John, before you go ahead and talk about the other way that that's done, I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying here. So North Carolina has been trying to protect its citizens from this. But you're saying that in North Carolina and in other states, in some states, that law enforcement can still get around the state law, essentially, by going to a federal law?
That's exactly right. So, for instance, in North Carolina, if a state trooper pulls over a motorist, finds cash and suspects it was drug proceeds, if they go under North Carolina law, they still have to charge that person with some kind of drug-related offense. They have to have them convicted under North Carolina law, and they have to show that it actually was proceeds, that cash wasn't something that they got in a legitimate way.